Hey, Facebook Live, it's another day, it's another afternoon, it's another lunchtime, and that means it is time for a little bit of Facebook Live. You know that we are going through currently 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. This is a mastermind group, a leadership training group that I am doing in person, and so in advance of doing that special, intimate, and private invitation-only group, I am going through these laws and just speaking a little bit off the cuff about them. But we're talking about possibly the most important law today, and that is actually, I believe it's law number 3. It's called the law of the mirror. And this is absolutely huge. Yep, it's number 3. You got it. I think it should be number 1. I mean, sequentially, it's great how John laid it out, but in terms of relevance and in terms of undoing some of the well-intentioned but damaging advice or commandments from other authority figures growing up, I think this is absolutely huge. Here's what I mean, and hopefully you can't relate to this. I really sincerely hope that you can't relate to the struggle that you have when you are looking at yourself in the mirror and looking at your self-image. I hope you can't relate to looking at yourself in the mirror, actually like I do. This is why this speaks to me. I look in the mirror some days and I'm like, what value am I adding to the world? What value am I adding to my mastermind group? What value am I adding in this 3-month series that I'm doing at the Wilmington Public Library? Now, I really hope that you can't relate to this, but unfortunately, it sounds like, and it looks like you can, because I've got more people on the line right now than normal. It's maybe a little too close to home for all of us. And you know what? I'm just going to decide that I'm going to be a little authentic. I'm going to be a little transparent, going to be a little bit out of the closet here today, because I think it's okay to come clean and say, hey, I think a lot of us struggle with this. I think it's absolutely huge that we just own up to having to deal with self-image stuff. Crystal, it's good to see you. I appreciate that thumbs up. Hey, here's what I mean. And some of us don't come from privilege. Some of us come from different types of group. Hey, Annette, it's good to see you. Some of us come from backgrounds where we've been put down and we've been subjugated, and you look at and you have all this systemic stuff, and that might be the challenge that you have, okay, or that we have. I'm speaking inclusively, but I'm actually about to take myself out of that category, because you can look at me. I call myself the poster boy for privilege here. I mean, look at this. I just, I've got this beautiful house, and I've got, had a lot of advantages. I've had a lot of privileges. But here's the thing that I'd like to kind of humbly submit, if you're watching this, that obviously I don't understand the struggles of everyone. I try to. I want to be empathetic. But what I've been realizing as an adult, that there's a certain amount of self-image challenge that we have when we look at the world and we see the inequities, and we look in the mirror, and if you're me and you're looking in the mirror like this, hey, I'm looking kind of pale. I sunburn easily, and it's like I see a lot of the advantages that I have, and so that brings a certain amount of, if I'm not careful, I'm not going to go on Facebook Live, and if I'm not careful, I could just kind of, there's a corner right here. Let me show you the corner. It's kind of like when I was a kid, when I got in trouble, what would you do? You get sent into the corner. And I'm telling you, if I can just kind of humbly suggest this or submit this, some of us, and maybe you don't have privileges and advantages. Maybe you're one of the people that overcame unbelievable disadvantages, and now you're kind of surfing. You're surfing on your way up. Maybe there's a little bit of imposter syndrome for you. Maybe there's a little bit of guilt for overcoming, a survivor guilt, imposter syndrome, some of these things that we know are out there. And maybe you're like me and you're tempted to put yourself right here in the corner. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to stand in the corner. See, I'm in the corner right now. And what good can I do? Let me ask you, what good can I do in this corner? when I'm standing in the corner here, when I'm talking to the corner instead of to you, what good can I do when I'm over there? I can't do a whole lot of good. So I think that there's a place, if I can suggest this, I believe there's a place of balance, okay, between being aware, being socially aware. Now, it's important to be aware because that was law number one. You've got to be aware. You've got to be aware that growth doesn't happen automatically. And I think we need to be socially aware of what's going on in society and the challenges and not be judging other people, other groups, not breaking the world into, people like me and the other people over there. We don't want to use that kind of language. But here's my other point, okay? Along with that, those of us that have privileges and advantages, maybe it's just your background, you had some advantages and all of that. Maybe it's the other way around, like a lot of people that I know who have had really difficult backgrounds and difficult upbringing and all kinds of things that they had to overcome. And maybe they didn't come from the privileged group or the other group or whatever. They just had to claw their way up, and now they're experiencing success. What I'm going to say, all that to say this, is that we have a world out here, whether you are privileged because of your background, maybe you're privileged because you overcame all of your lack of privilege and now you've got super privileged muscles because you just worked yourself and you made stuff happen and you added value to the world and now you're reaping what you're sowing in a really, really good way. My point is this. We've got a world out there and it needs you, privileged as you may be or overcoming as you may be, or whatever your advantages, whatever your gift is to the world, whatever your strengths are, whatever your resource level that you have right now, we've got a world out there and it needs us all to step up. And as long as, again, with sensitivity to what I just said, as long as we are focused on the mirror in a wrong way, navel gazing, gazing at your belly button and thinking, over-diagnosing everything, or you're just kind of in the corner of shame. I'll call it the corner of shame. And that's a place where you might be kind of locking yourself up in the jail because of your advantages, because of your resources or whatever. And meanwhile, there's somebody starving out there. There's somebody homeless out there. There's somebody that needs to be and this is where maybe I get myself in a little bit of trouble, but I believe they need to be connected to the resources that we have. We have shelters and we have other places like that, and I know that it's a choice, and I know that some people choose not to do that, but we've got to become resourceful and find out what the research says and what the best of our religious community as well as our scientific community and social community and resource community. We've got to do what we can to help other people. Really, really huge about that. Now, that was a 8.5 minute introduction that was, I think it made some sense. I think that was good. Hey, Greg, it's good to see you. Annette, great. I really appreciate your comment, Annette. That means so much to me coming from you. And so I think, so we kind of went over here a little bit, but I did want to say that because I wanted to come out of the closet because I'm in that corner of privilege and the privilege corner, instead of making a difference in the world to the degree that I'd like to. Now, I do a lot about that, and I go out there and I bang the door and I drop off flyers, and I'm getting more into press releases now because I'm, with a blue collar strategy of walking down the street. If you want to do kind of a white collar ish workshop, and I guess white collar is privilege, but again, I'm taking myself out of the corner to add more value to people wherever they are. I've got to use the right strategy for the right thing. And so the law of the mirror. Let's get back into this. It basically says you're not going to be able to outperform your self-image. It's absolutely huge. The law of the mirror actually says this. You've got to see value in yourself to add value to yourself. And you might say to me, Nathan, well, I'm in the corner. Let's say that you're in the corner and you're dealing with your survivor guilt or your resource guilt or your success guilt or your imposter guilt. you're in the corner. And what I'm saying to you is whatever your self-image is right now, whatever your self-image level is right now, let's raise it another notch so that you can do more and impact more and actually be able to benefit more. At the end of the day, you need to benefit more so that your vision has more of a funding and a funnel for it. But let's get you out of the corner. Okay, if you're in a negative corner because you're like, I'm privileged and I've had all these advantages and God just loves me so much and I just keep getting all these, good blessings and things I don't deserve. Well, you deserve it. Okay, let's add value to yourself. Let's see the value in you. I see value in you. John Maxwell sees the value in you. I believe as a person of faith, God sees the value in you. And my favorite book says that he does. So just let's get over it and get out of that corner and start adding value to ourselves. Because the more limited your vision, your self-image is, this is a lid. And you can't have a big vision when you've got this little self-image and it's a lid on your potential. Now, your potential is limitless. Okay, so we've got to raise the self-image. No, it's not selfish. No, it's not narcissistic. No, you're not going to turn into a New York real estate billionaire that moved into politics. Okay, you're not going to go in any of those directions just by working on your self-image and raising it up, because I believe that you're going to use it for the purposes of good. And not only the purposes of yourself, but also to give back to the world. And in case you weren't paying attention, the world really needs you. And the world doesn't just need you just cruising or being falsely humble. The world actually needs you desperately, needs you to step up and get something going and to rightly discern and identify, I am rocking in this area. Maybe you rock in the area of building relationship and influencing other people. That is huge. And selling other people and making money by serving other people. That is huge. Maybe you're a social worker and you add value by discerning all of these complicated family situations and going in there and intervening in ways that largely serve other people, even within a really convoluted system that is very, very difficult. Sam, it's good to see you. You're writing a lot, and I'm not able to take the time to, I'm having a hard time reading all that. So I really appreciate that. Dorian, good to see you. So it's really important, okay? And I'm giving you permission today to discern rightfully what I believe God has blessed you with, what you're good at, what you need to do to raise your skill level, to impact more. But I'm not giving you permission. Here's what I'm not giving you permission to do. And I think that I think John would back me up on this. John Maxwell, teaching out of his book right here. I believe John Maxwell would back me up and said, neither one of us give you permission to downgrade yourself. Neither one of us give you any permission to denigrate yourself or think less of yourself than what you have. We only give you permission to lift yourself up. Guess what? Guess what is easier to do? Is it easier just to raise yourself up, or is it easier to knock yourself down? It's a tough world out there, folks. I think it's a whole lot easier to put a little badge of humility, honor on, which is a wrong badge, which is not really humility. Humility is strength. But I thought for a long time that, I'm just going to wear the little humility and then I'm going to invoke the name of my deity that I worship and put his stamp of approval on my lowering of my potential and my abdicating and basically running away and fleeing from what I'm really called to do. Ouch, right? That hurt to say. That might have hurt to listen to, but I mean it. I mean it. That's what we do so many times. The world needs us to grow. The world does not need us to shrink. There are too many people that don't have the opportunity. Maybe I'm guilting you a little bit here, but all of us, we have the opportunity to grow. Okay? We have the opportunity to grow, or we can go into the corner and make excuses or feel guilty or sorry or just guilty or ashamed of ourselves instead of just adding value to other people. Here's what I want to do. Okay, I think I've played this out pretty well. I want to give you 10 simple steps that are going to help you raise your self-image. Because even if you have a high self-image, I know John in the book here, if you read chapter 3 in this book, he specifies the low self-image, and he specifies that. And it's probably because we don't want, he probably didn't want us to just kind of take a cursory scan and think that he's inspiring us all to become narcissists or something. And so he was very careful to specify low self-image. Now, I've hung out with John a lot, and many of the people who've popped in on this call also have. I think that John would definitely agree that we can always raise our image higher. We can always look up higher and conquer another mountain and take more people with us. He would absolutely not disagree with that at all. So I want to give you 10 simple steps very, very quickly and very, very briefly to help you do that. So these are steps to build your self-image. Because if you woke up the way I did this morning, friends, okay, I mean, again, being super transparent, I woke up this morning and I was still feeling lousy about squandering a few hours last night just watching TV. I mean, I'm not supposed to be doing that. I'm supposed to be the personal growth leadership guy. I'm supposed to be the influence guy, and so I had to forgive myself for just kind of wasting time and wasting all of that resource. And you might have to forgive yourself too. We've got to go from that mode into a raising of the self-image. Now, here's the first thing. We've got to realize the power of self-talk. This was actually self-talk. This was actually one of my, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I set goals, and I only have 5 to 7 major goals going on at any one time. This has been on my list. It's the easiest goal for me when I do it, and that is to guard my self-talk and to actually coach myself out loud. Nathan, wow, you rock that. Nathan, you rock that Facebook Live. You rock that library event. Man, the photos look pretty good, even for you, Nathan. Oh, my gosh. So I tell myself so that I speak it, and it goes around my head, and it goes into my ear, and it also goes into the other ear. And I actually do so much better when I have been talking and forcing myself to praise myself in a sincere way. It actually helps me avoid just kind of what I used to do, frankly, bottoming out every couple of days, just emotionally. And it actually helps me solidify. Now, I didn't give myself a little coaching the last couple of days, and then I kind of bottomed out a little bit. Not good. So we've got to praise ourselves in a ethical way, based on something that you did that was praiseworthy. We want to praise other people. We need to praise ourselves. It's fuel for passion. So we got to guard the self-talk and catch yourself doing something right. Congratulate yourself. It sounds like I'm a narcissist. Sounds like I'm an egomaniac. It's actually what I need to help me add more value to other people. And if I do not do this, I actually wonder, another 36, 48, 72 hours why I'm kind of bottoming out and life doesn't look as hopeful. It's because I wasn't encouraging myself. Really, really important. I wish somebody would have told me that more emphatically decades ago, because I probably get more done at this point. Here's the second thing. Stop comparing. Stop comparing. We want to praise ourselves. We want to encourage ourselves. Don't compare. Okay? Don't compare. If you got to compare yourself to your potential. Compare yourself today to your dream, and don't do it in a judgy way. Do it in an I'm almost there kind of encouraging way. Don't compare. Number 3, move beyond belief. Move beyond belief. What kind of beliefs? Well, you're limiting beliefs. We've got to move and blast through what we think is possible and go into the impossible. I mean, there's a little bit of an art to discerning what is, fantasy versus really doable. But we've got to blast beyond current belief, or else we're not growing. I mean, come on. Now, if I showed you the beautiful garden that my wife has planted, I mean, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? She is such a great gardener, and we have such a beautiful garden right there. And it's like those plants have got to grow. Those plants have to stretch and they have to grow. And I'm learning, don't really have a green thumb at this point, but I'm learning that the plants have to be kind of uprooted and the roots need to be like stretched out and broken a little bit because they get all stiff and crotchety. And when we repot them, we have to, aerate the roots so that they can, stretch out and stretch out and get even bigger. So the wider they go, the higher and the deeper they're able to go. And that's the same thing, my friend, with you and not just your dream, but what you're called to do, your purpose on the earth. I mean, there are some people that are watching either the replay or me even live right now. There are many people and they're not feeling as good as they could. And this isn't really about the feeling. This is ultimately, I'm bringing up feelings because feelings affect what your actions are. And then when your actions are limited, you don't make much of an impact. But when you have great feelings, good feelings, then you're going to do a lot of good things and they're going to have a bigger impact. And that's really what I'm into. I want your impact. I want to see the stamp that you make on the world. And there are some people watching this right now who are not feeling all that great because they're not impacting the world. I want you to impact at a higher level, and you've got to move beyond belief. To do that, be like the uprooted plant that we yank those roots out and force you into a bigger environment. Number 4, got to add value to others. Okay, stretch out your roots, believe bigger, go beyond belief, and then start acting in tiny, tiny ways, but many, many ways, tiny ways, and add value, not just to yourself, but let your higher belief and your better feeling impact other people, and then you're really going to feel good, and then you're going to really want to impact other people. Number 5, do the hard thing. Number 5, do the hard thing. Don't just do the right thing, but do the hard thing. Do tiny, tiny little hard things. I did a hard thing this morning. Many of you, if you've listened to me before, and I think I may have shared this at the library, those of you that were at the library, I hate tech support calls. I hate having to call up and wait and go through, and I just have this giant wall that goes on the inside. It's totally unfounded because I think every support call I've made, it's been so much easier than I thought. But I just don't like passwords not working, and especially when it's tied into my bank account, my business bank account. I went and did the hard thing this morning. I guess my vision is real small because this was when I tell you that going to the bank to get plugged into my online bank account was a hard thing. It was that's just an example. I mean, I want you to share what your hard thing is because you might think it's trivial, but you know what? There are tiny little false evidence appearing real, which is an acronym for fear. There are tiny, illogical, stupid things like being afraid to go to I wasn't afraid, I just didn't want to, but there's stupid little things like that keeping us from our potential and making an impact. There's stupid little things like that holding us back from making that impact. Turned out I actually had more money in the checking account than I thought I did, and a client payment came in, so that was a good thing. That was a good day. I was glad to know about that. So do the hard thing. Number 6, do something small daily. Do something small daily so that you have the compound effects. Again, taking action, believing big, but then taking immediate action, doing something small, moving beyond belief, adding value to other people, doing a tiny but hard thing. These things, when we do them, we feel better about ourselves because we're doing the right thing. We're doing the hard thing. We're living life in the proper way, in the proper order. So do a small thing daily. Do something small daily. And here's my favorite, number 7. This one's fun when you really grab onto it. grab onto this one. Oh my gosh, I'm giving you permission to do this. Celebrate the small. Celebrate the small. I never did this. I was this privileged kid playing the piano and memorizing Beethoven sonatas, okay? I would celebrate memorizing a 15-minute movement of the Beethoven sonata or the 25-minute whole sonata and being able to play it back from memory reasonably well. I might celebrate that, but the problem was it took me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, as a little privileged kid practicing my piano to get to the level where I could memorize Beethoven sonata. And I mean, you need to stay in the game. You need to have celebrations frequent for small little things in order to stay in the game for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. Oh my gosh. So celebrate small things. This is something I still don't do very well. And the funny thing is, the really successful people that I know, the mentors that I have who are worth millions and millions of dollars, many of them, they celebrate tiny things. They have this active posture. They have this let's go get them posture. I mean, it's like life is just like a big game to them, okay? And they're just loving life in many areas of their life. They don't have perfect lives, but a lot of life. They do what they can. They do these principles, and they celebrate small things, and they just live life in this leaning forward posture of just enjoying and wonder and thanksgiving and gratitude and adding value and being generous with other people. It's like, man, I want to be like that, and how did they get like that? Well, they were the same way when they didn't have a couple of nickels to rub together. They were generous with other people, even when they didn't have any extra money, and they just believed bigger. They acted. They did these 10 steps. It was huge. Okay. Number 8, embrace a positive vision for your life. Embrace the positive vision for your life. Now, this is maybe you're thinking it's a little bit getting redundant. No, you've got to celebrate small and then bring the small out and tie the small victory into the big vision for your life. You got to associate tiny small, because if you're analytical like me, you're going to say, I want to celebrate the small. That's too small to celebrate. You're wasting time celebrating. Go back to work. You're wasting time. No, tie the small victory into the big vision and make it more real. Because every time you have a tiny little victory in the small victory, every time you do that small victory, you're a step closer. You're a bigger step closer to the big vision than you ever imagined. Oh my gosh. Number 9, pick a word. Pick a word. Number 9, pick a word. Pick one word to serve as your motto, as your vision. That's the one word strategy. Pick one word and say it over and over and over to yourself to get back on target. Stay on target. We talked about staying on target the other day. You want to stay on target with that one word. And number 10, take responsibility for your life. Number 10, take responsibility. Again, he's tying the small wins and the small actions, the frequent actions, into the big picture. Remind yourself, for those of us that are in privilege jail or survivor guilt jail or advantage guilt jail or first world problems guilt jail. Okay, I'm being a little silly with this, but if go back, watch the 8.5 minutes I spent talking about how many of us are in this jail. That is the context here, because the whole point of you raising your image, looking at the law of the mirror, seeing value in yourself, despite your advantages, your privileges, you're living, many of you live in America, many of you live in countries where you have a great amount of latitude and freedom and advantages and resources. Some of you don't so much, but there are advantages even there. But I mean, it's like, let's tie it back to the responsibility to bless other people in our life. That's what John Maxwell is doing right here. So let's go back, all 10 little micro steps here. These are absolutely huge. Here we go. Self-talk. Talk to yourself. Bless yourself. Encourage yourself. Self-talk. Number 2, stop comparing. Number 3, go beyond belief. Number 4, add value to other people. Number 5, do the hard thing. Number 6, do small daily things. Number 7, celebrate the small. Number 8, embrace the positive vision for your life. Number 9, pick one word and use it as a motto. Use it as a strategy. Number 10, take responsibility for your life. You know, when you get to that number 10 and when you have a tiny little impact, that means, you know, something more normal. Like don't take from other people. Be careful who you tag on social media. It might mean don't add somebody to your email list that didn't ask to be added to your, I mean, come on, really. That could be where many of us are at. But man, when your impact rises, imagine right now that you had a net worth in the 8 figures, that you were worth $15 million. Now, what would take responsibility for your life look like if you had a net worth of $15 million? It might be a little bit higher level. It might be, you know, being, joining your local Rotary Club if you're not already there so that you can serve and give back. It might be getting involved in the political arena or something like that. It might be really being a servant, really giving back, really giving of your time instead of working 80 hours a week on the job that if you were at that level of income, you really don't need to work for a living. Maybe it's, really just giving back. So it's going to scale up. And so we've got this micro and macro and micro and macro thing going on in those 10 steps. Absolutely huge. This is probably the most key of all of the 15 invaluable laws of growth. I think this is the one that has been the most invaluable to me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for hearing my story. I really appreciate Annette and Crystal and Greg and Sam and Dorian and I don't think I missed anybody, but all of you to comment as well. I just thank you for all of the thumbs up because I shared some personal stuff in this one. I shared, my inner conflict about, being in the first world and, having, privilege and all of these things. But I want to tie it back to the needs of the world and why I'm so passionate about personal growth. Why, no matter how much privilege you have, you can't be in that corner. You've got to instead go back out and serve the world and make a difference, no matter what color you are, no matter what socioeconomic status you are, no matter what group you associate with, whatever your identity is, whatever it is, you got to go back out and make flippin' difference in the world instead of jailing yourself back in the corner. Hey, friends, we're not on in the 4th grade anymore. We got to get out of the corner. We got to make a difference. Come on out, make a difference with me. Come to the library. August the 10th, we are doing a workshop, and this is going to be about becoming a person of influence, or becoming, I should say, a person of even greater influence than you are right now. That's probably what I would name it. There's more words there, but it's going to be absolutely free at the library. August the 10th, it's a Thursday, 2nd Thursday of the month. This is the 2nd of 3 events at the library. I'm preparing a press release to go out that you can share, that you can bring other people, that if you have a friend in the Wilmington area, in the Philadelphia area, they're going to want to be at this complimentary workshop. It's not complimentary for me. I had to get licensed. I go to down to Florida for certifications up to twice a year, and then there are other things that I'm doing in association with this. It's certainly not free for me, but again, I'm a little bit privileged here. I've got advantages. This is one of the things that I do to give back, but I mean, there are so many other things that I do that I really am going to, in the coming days, ask for your support, the community support for, because together we can make a much bigger difference. And there are things that have been unbelievable, great, praiseworthy, noteworthy things, not for me, not about me, but about Wilmington and about Delaware and about our leaders here. And because I am not yet on the inside track in all the areas in town, and because I have limitations to my influence, I need some of the influence that you may have. I need to know some of the people that you know, so that when I say, hey, we just had a Wilmington semifinalist for the John Maxwell Transformational Leadership Award, and I want to send out a press release. I want that press release to go through. I want other people to read about that person. Actually, it wasn't that person. It was last year. This year, it's multiple people, and you probably know of them if you're local. Those of you that are local here, like Annette, maybe even Dorian here is not too far away from me. You would know some of these people, and you would absolutely know of the institutions that they represent. And when I send out and write up a press release, I want to send it, and I want it to go through. I want it to get commented by political leaders here in Delaware. We're pretty small. I mean, good news, pretty easy peasy, no risk praising people when they're being nominated and being advancing through the ranks for national awards. Pretty huge, actually international global awards as well. But those are a couple of examples. I am not going to take the time to talk about the anti-bullying campaign that we did globally that impacted over, I believe it was over 100,000 kids worldwide, and we're going to be doing it again. I'm not going to take the time to talk about Live to Lead coming up. I'm not going to take the time to talk about some of the mastermind groups that we're doing at the mill. Not going to go into depth on any of those things. Instead, wow, we talked for a while today. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. And thank you for taking this stuff for heart. And most of all, thank you for yanking yourself out of the corner, out of the timeout, because the world doesn't need you in timeout. The world needs you making a difference. You've got to raise your self-image, raise your vision, and then raise your impact in that order. Hey, this is Nathan Eckel. I'm so excited to go out there and make a difference. Thanks for being part of my day today.